Howdy. Well, I'm not on the side of a river. I'm currently out in the woods in my favorite mushroom hunting spot, getting some chanterelle mushrooms for some food to be cooked later on. But it got me to thinking that fishing can be a lot like mushroom hunting, in that you kind of find your spot. And sometimes it's a secretive spot, or sometimes you might have a spot that you're willing to take some folks to, but it's a little bit different. So I had a really good opportunity a little while ago to go to somebody's secret spot, and I thought I wanted to share that with you, but I also think that there's an interesting conversation around it, and that conversation is around public access versus private access. So I had a friend of mine call me up and offer up some access that he had to a creek that has a cabin based off of. And, he said the trout fishing was pretty good and be something I'd be interested in. And, I kind of jumped at the opportunity because I love fishing new water, and who wouldn't want to go out and do some exploring like that, especially with an old acquaintance that I hadn't seen in many years. And so I jumped at the opportunity. But it wasn't really until after the fact that I got to start thinking about really what is it that about this place, what makes it so special, but also within that, being the fact that it is private access, how do I feel about that? Because I feel very mixed, and I figured I would have this conversation, with the group, because I'd love to hear what other people think. So I was thinking about this more and more kind of after the fact, and really, for the most part, I'm very much into the idea of having public access to places, because I think that's very important to the greater good. But in this case, the access is on private timberland, which I think is a different thing, which you can get access to. As a civilian, you can pay a certain amount of money. And so all in all, the fishing was really good, and as you'll see. But there's an interesting side of it where, because I think of the lack of human pressure, the fishing was good and the fish get a little bit bigger. And I think, they're just not used to seeing the amount of pressure. So I think there's a benefit and a drawback at the same time. But in the end, I think there's an interesting debate here where, the access is private timber, but yet, you as the public can get access to this. And so, I think that it's not completely closed off to the public. And I think that, if you find an opportunity like this, you should probably take it. But I also think that we need to be aware of the fact that, we're losing a lot of public land. And so I think we should all, kind of, as stewards, be mindful of the fact that, there should be access to everyone, not just a select few. And that's a tricky thing. That's something I struggle with quite a bit in making films about this kind of stuff, is that, I'm shedding light on things that might not necessarily get the attention. And sometimes that's for better or for worse. But it's my hope that I can also show responsible recreation. So in the end, that's really the goal here. And I had a really good time fishing. And I thank Ben, for bringing me out. But the real reason I really wanted to sit down and talk to the camera is I wanted to talk about how the channel is going to change a little bit here moving forward. And what do I mean by that? Well, I've decided that I'm going to start doing a little bit of a different approach when it comes to making these films. And really it is just that. I am going to start doing more films, more longer form, I guess you could say short films, a little less of me fishing and really start to tell the story of other people fishing. And the reason I'm doing that is just to do a change. I took a little break there from posting videos, and part of the reason I've done that is I've been working on a lot of different projects at the same time. And so I'm enjoying it. It means I will post a little less, but it gives me an opportunity to really put a lot of thought and effort into each individual project. And I can tell my story a lot of times, but telling other people's story is a lot of fun. And I think it's something that adds a lot more excitement to the viewer in the end, to hear other people hear about their experiences, hear about, how they came to where they're at. And so I'm really trying to find, unique individuals and people that I think are really special to highlight. I also think it's really good to highlight the community as a whole. And I think community is the big word there. So I really want to try to tell the story of people in the Pacific Northwest and the fly fishing community. So that's what's going to be happening moving forward. Occasionally there'll still be a video like this every once in a while, but yeah, I think a little bit more film stuff, and I'll be in and out of them every once in a while. But it's also fun to be on the other side of things, to be on the other side of the camera, more the shooting and directing side. So, so yeah, look forward to some of those in the future, and pretty soon, yeah. I mean, I've got multiple projects in the works with multiple ideas, kind of putting me out into next year. So that's really exciting. But that's where the direction of it's headed, and I hope everybody enjoys it, and I hope that some new folks come along for the ride too. Funny enough, I did just try to film this at a different spot up there, and I sat down on a log, and all of a sudden it started buzzing. Sat down on a yellow jacket nest. I wouldn't recommend that. Amazingly, I didn't get stung, but yeah, I relocated. And you can probably hear it. I don't know if the mic is picking it up. Also, there is a lot of gunfire happening down the hill from me, which is a little nerve-wracking, but very common for the area I'm in. Pro tip, if you're out mushroom hunting, wear something bright, something not elk or deer colored, because yeah, it's a better way to not get shot at. So, interesting. The interesting thing about telling other people's stories is that you open your world up a little bit more. And I think that that's a really good thing to do. And it's been really great for me, because it's allowed me to tap into a side of the community that I might not really see or be a part of if I were to just go out and fish by myself and on my own. So I've been thinking, that there's a side benefit in that a lot of the people I'm meeting are very like-minded, very, very interesting people. But rather than, as much as I love fishing with the people that I've fished with over the years, it's fun to fish with new people, and I enjoy it. I think of it as a social thing, but not everybody sees it that way, and that's okay. But getting out and actually getting to tell the story is a pretty fascinating thing, because everybody has a story to tell, and for some people, it's pretty heavy. Some of it is people have gone through a lot of stuff to get to where they're at, and for a lot of people, fly fishing is a way of sort of healing some of that. So, I mean, I think in my own life, there's an element of that. I didn't have the greatest childhood, so I think that there's a lot of healing that's involved, and so I can relate to that in a lot of ways. But what that means to other people, or what that means to individuals, what fly fishing in particular means to other people is different. But it's also really neat to see how people got to where they're at now. And I hope that I get to bring everybody along for those journeys, for an interesting side of things. And I don't know, I'm just going to make some really fun films in the meantime, and hopefully people enjoy it. I first met Ben in January of 2012. He had helped to open up some of my favorite restaurants in town, and his current project had opened just 2 years before. They came in and did a very special beer dinner at the brewery I was working at the time. It was the first one that we had ever been involved in, and it turned out to be a very special event, and one I'll always hold close to my heart, because it was such an amazing experience for everyone involved. Over the years, we stayed in contact, but as life has a tendency to do, we both got busy, both professionally and personally. When Ben reached out to tell me that he had some special water he thought I might enjoy fishing with him, I jumped at the opportunity, and I'm glad that I did. So one of the cool things about this particular fishing trip was that we got to a certain part in the creek and Ben pointed and said, I think there's a really big fish over there and seen it before, and why don't you go ahead and cast to it? So I did, ended up catching the fish and hooking it. But the fascinating thing was he took me up under a log and I thought I'd lost it. It was a really tricky situation, but I was able to manage to get it out, and very nice fish, and I caught it on the 1-weight rod.
day turned out to not only be a great day of fishing, but to also be a great day of catching up and reminiscing about good times and amazing projects that we've both been involved in over the years. It seems like a cliche to say, but sometimes fishing isn't just about fishing. This trip was a perfect example of that. I have a lot of respect for Ben and his professional accomplishments over the years. His passion and work ethic are inspiring, and for a day, it was an honor to fish his secret water and to reconnect. We'll see you again next time. Thanks for coming along for the journey. Cheers.